Hi, everyone. How are you? A wonderful day today. Welcome to the Crazy for You podcast. I'm Ellen Lewis, and this is a very special episode of the podcast because I have the incredibly charming and wonderful David MacLeod from Rowan Yarns with me today. So we are going to be talking about some of Rowan's plant-based and summer fibers, especially those from the spring-summer 2021 collection, and just so much good stuff to share with you. So I'm very excited about that. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about some of the inside information about that. So let me real quick bring David on.
There we are.
All right. There you are. How are you?
Good, thank you. Yeah, really, really well. It's Saturday afternoon here in the UK, and sat in my dining room, ready to talk to you about all the summer yarns that we have on cotton in particular, I think. So.
Yeah, cotton, and I think some of the blends as well. So for anyone who doesn't know you or who hasn't been a regular watcher, do you want to just sort of tell everybody what you do and what this plum position is?
Well, that can be the long or the short version. I'll try and do maybe a midi version. I'm David MacLeod. I am Rowan brand manager. I have been with Rowan 14 years. I started out in graphic design and just came through managing the design studio and have progressed through the company up into brand manager. What do I do as brand manager? Pretty much I touch everything that has Rowan on it as a brand, and it's not all like design decisions or color decisions, but kind of a lot of the bones and just making things work, the admin, just making sure the right people are doing the right thing at the right times, watching the timelines. And it's a really interesting job. I deal with people all over the world every day. I'm quite on a lot of international calls in the last year. Zoom has become my best friend, which is a good thing and a bad thing. But yeah, it's a very busy, hectic job, but I do love what I do. I'm a bit of a fiber geek. I'm a farmer's son. So what I say is I close the circle. So my family create the fiber, I blend it and sell it. So that's the end of the circle for me.
I love that. I think that's so wonderful. And I'm sure your family is like super proud and excited about that.
Yeah, well, they're all knitters as well. So they're all, it's very handy having a yarn person in the family. Let's just say that.
And you're a knitter too, right?
I am, yes. Surrounded by knitters in my childhood, my mum, my grandmother, and my grandfather. I remember knitting when I was a very small child in the north of Scotland. And I was taught to knit in school, but then I left it for a long time because, boys don't knit. And then when I came back to Rowan, I picked up my needles again, because if I'm going to lead a department, I'm going to know how to do it. And now I am an avid knitter and knit all year round. Quite a lot of it is swatch knitting because I'm testing new yarn developments and looking at fibers and seeing how that blends and how that knits. And then, then I do knit for pleasure as well. I do a lot of finishing because my mum doesn't like finishing and I quite like that bit. So I get that bit of all her knitting as well.
I love finishing myself. So we have a question that was on the tip of my tongue. Did you make your sweater?
I didn't actually. This is being truthfully, because I could say I could knit this. I've got many sweaters I have knitted, but this was knitted by one of our knitters for me. It's Lee from Cape Bay. It's in Soft Jack, and that's 2 spring summers ago. I really like to knit cable, so because I like that interesting technique of it building. But this is not one I've knitted. I do knit, and I do knit sweaters, but I'm honestly telling you, this is not one of mine.
That's always the case. We get a lot of samples in the shop.
Yeah.
And, if I'm wearing them, I always feel so sort of strange, when somebody says, "Oh, did you knit that?" Well, no, not this one.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that's it for me too. But I've always promised myself that I'd be honest, and I tried to be honest. I do have it in my contract that I get a piece knitted for me every season. So, which is lovely.
Isn't that nice?
Yes, it is very nice.
So it has been, you mentioned that Zoom was your best friend. The last time we talked, I think, was in the fall. How have things changed, and are you coming out of the pandemic, and are things good for you now?
Yeah, things have been good all the way through. The team have just been amazing. We have adapted to so much change. Like everybody in the world, it's been very, very tricky. We immediately moved from working from home and going in the office sometimes. We're now pretty much back into the office as much as we can, because there's loads of things in place to make it safe for everybody and taking care of everybody's needs and so forth. It has been very, very challenging. The most tricky thing for us has been Europe was really badly hit, in particular Italy. So we had a lot of delays with yarn development and deliveries, and just moving of raw fiber around the world stopped dead as well. So that got really tricky, and we have been a little bit delayed with our autumn winter season. And there were times that I was worried about what we would be launching, but I can happily say we're there, we're coming. It's going to launch on time. We're launching on the 1st of September globally, which feels like a massive relief. We did have a lot of problems with photo shoots, I'd say. So we had to change how we do those and think differently and have lots of closed sets. And, Rowan is known to be out in the British countryside and big expansive shots. We couldn't do that because we couldn't be sure that we were keeping people safe. And when you go anywhere in the UK to shoot, you get lots of people watching what you're doing. And we just had to, take a lot of stuff into studios to do. But we're really happy with what we have produced. And I think actually, as a marker in time, what we have this season will be a marker in time, and we'll be able to look back at it and go, that looks amazing, as something as a whole.
Well, I'm thinking in particular about the spring summer book, the magazine, issue 69. And you guys really did a beautiful job. It looked like it was in, lots of gardens, and obviously that was a closed kind of set. But the whole collection is just so beautiful and happy. The colors are brilliant and bright, and like I said, happy. And I feel like that was exactly what we needed.
Yeah. We were really pleased with it. It's exactly. And, there is a huge trend for color to come back as well in knitting. We're seeing that come through in all the trend predictions. And I think that is just a bit of an answer to everybody feeling they need a little bit of a lift and a bit of joy and, something to make them smile.
Absolutely. So when did you start working? When do you start working on a collection like spring, summer 2021? When was its incubation?
Well, we start 18 months before launch. So spring summer 22 is already done and being written in with knitters already. So that pans out. We're actually planning autumn winter 22 with outline plans for spring summer 23 at the moment, because we have to work that far ahead. So, and also it's because it's knit, because these, it takes a bit longer. You have to allow knitters time to do it. You have to allow time to look at a garment, make a change, decide that it's not right. So 18 months in total. And at any one time in the design studio, we have 3 seasons on the go, which can be really challenging. We do have a rule that says if you start a conversation, you have to say which season you're talking about, so anybody knows. Because so at the moment, spring summer is out and it's in the market, and that's what I'm talking to all you lovely people about. Autumn winter is launched to retailers and markets globally, so they can start a pre-selling period. And we are working on spring summer 22 as well. So within the department, there's 3 on the go at the moment.
Oh my goodness. I don't know how you keep track of it all.
I have a limited amount in my space in my head, and that's what I say. If something goes in, something has to come out. But it's an amazing team. That's how we manage it. The team we've got some fantastic people that just can remember garment names like that and what year it was published in, which color it was in. I'm not that. It's not all on the tip of my tongue for sure.
I'm sure you have other gifts. So yeah, it really was just so beautiful and happy, particularly the front, the nostalgia section was just with those colors, and then the shades of kid silk haze and fine lace that we hadn't seen before. Just that, huge, colorful, flowery palette was wonderful. I wanted to share with you this comment, but go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just going to say the nostalgia story came from there was a whole trend for nostalgia because of lockdowns and so forth. People were looking to look at familiars. And actually, Dior that season did a whole 50s dress trend, which was amazing. And that's what has filtered down, is everybody looking back to something they know reassuringly, and being able to look at shapes and not be challenged by it, but something they just love to wear and have tried before. That's where it comes from.
That's a really interesting point about, garments and designs and styles being challenging or being not challenging, and there is such comfort in the familiar, So
absolutely. Yeah.
I love that. And also in the home. And as this viewer is saying, is that, the home knitting and all of that. Well, we did have quite a bit of home style stuff, not in the magazine, but in the collection overall for spring summer. There was a lot of home
stuff. Yeah, I mean, homeware, we call it, is been a huge trend for us for 2-3 years now, and I think that's part of people spending more time at home, making their home reflect them as a person and their craft that they do. Martin Story released a home collection for us 2 years ago, and we're going to follow that up in autumn winter. But it's crazy how mad that went. It was just, there was an Aussie owl cushion. It had an owl, and that owl traveled the world. It was amazing. There was like Facebook threads about this owl going around. It's really fun. And it's also great that homeware can unite everybody in the knit, because it's gender neutral, non-discriminatory. Anybody can knit it, everybody can wear it. So, or not wear it, but use it, if you know.
Right. It doesn't have to fit.
No, exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't have to fit. And, you don't have to worry about things like gauge and whatever. You just start and you just go, and it's just very relaxed.
Exactly.
So we were talking about your sweater, and I wanted to mention that I love the whole section of, in the second half of the magazine 69 that Martin Story did, the collection in Soft Yak DK. So that's a beautiful yarn. I know it's your favorite yarn and my favorite.
Yeah, it is my current favorite, yes.
So how does that happen? Does Martin say, oh, I love this yarn, I would like to do a collection of that? Or do you say, hey, I love Soft Yak DK, Martin, let's get on it?
It's a bit of all of that, really. I mean, obviously, like myself and Sharon, brand director, we have influence on what happens for a season, but we really try to take feedback from the markets as much as we possibly can. But our designers do present concepts to us every season. And I think Martin actually presented a Soft Yak collection idea for that. He doesn't necessarily know that we're thinking we'll put that in the main magazine, or whether it would be a separate brochure, and it's just whether then we'll see what we've got, make sure we're covering yarns, we're covering size, shape, what everybody wants from a collection, and then we see how it fits together. But what we've been really successful targeting yarns in the main magazine. So we've done felted tweed a few years ago, a targeted collection, Soft Yak, and we've got kid silk haze coming, and just it's really quite good to have one yarn, and people really seem to engage with a single yarn collection.
Yeah, I think it really does kind of generate a lot of energy.
Yeah, exactly.
Around it, and get people. Yeah. So Soft Yak DK was one of those fibers that I didn't pick up the very first time I saw it. It didn't necessarily. Go ahead.
Well, it's interesting you say that,
biscuit,
because
are we?
no, I was looking for the ball of yarn. That's because I have it. All the biscuits have been finished now.
Oh, too bad.
Soft Yak, interesting you say that. It didn't land in the market with a big drum roll, and it took a lot of people maybe they had to pick it up, knit with it to warm to it as a yarn, because it's not a conventional yarn, and it doesn't look, it's a modern construction, new spinning technique, and it just it took a little time to warm up. But actually, I think, like what I presume you were going to say, once you've knitted with it, you go, oh, this is really nice.
Oh, it's more than nice.
And then then it took, and now people are returning to it, and that was the real thing about it.
I do think that the construction of it is a little off-putting for people who haven't ever used it. I mean, chainette is becoming more and more widely used and accepted in the marketplace. But I think there's a concern for the knitter. When you see a yarn in a skein, what is that texture of the fiber going to look like in the knitted fabric? So I think swatching it is huge. Having it shown in the magazine and the designs. I mean, it's such a lovely technique of constructing the yarn, because it gives what would otherwise be kind of a limp, cotton fiber. It gives it such bounce and elasticity, and it feels just amazing.
Absolutely. It's like if you look at the yarn and you pick it up, you can actually, there's movement in it. There's a little bit of elasticity when you pull the yarn back and forward. And that is modern techniques. I mean, I like modern spin techniques. I've spent a lot of time finding out about them. But what they do for us is they allow us to use those natural fibers to the best of their ability. Because actually, modern, just a normal roving yarn is beautiful too. It does its job there. But you can, like with yak, it allows this yak to come through and be really soft, and it allows this yarn to wash and wear really well. I know soft yak is the predominant fiber in my or quality in my pile of hand knits here. So I know it washes and wears. It's beautiful to wear, and it is a really trans-seasonal yarn as well, because it's summer and I'm still wearing it, but I don't feel hot. It's nice and cool to wear, but it's cozy as well. So,
what does the yak do exactly? I mean, the proportion of yak and the proportion of cotton, I mean, it's more than just the texture, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Well, yak is it's a fantastic fiber, yak. It's one of those things that a lot of people, it is around now, but a few years ago people were kind of like, ooh, yak, what is that? Well, if you think where a yak grows and where they live, it's on a mountain. They have to deal with hot and colds, and that's what the fiber does. But it's beautifully soft as well. And that's what it does, is if you pick up a soft yak, there is a coolness, like a cotton touch, but there's also that soft, like almost like a brushed feeling to it. And that's what the yak adds. But it's an amazing fiber. It's supposed to be hypoallergenic. It looks after your body, allowing air to move as well, because it's a natural fiber that way. It's just, I can't say enough about yak. It's one of my favorite fibers. But it's also it's not a really long fiber either. And that's why it works in a chainette construction.
It's also not, it doesn't have a lot of natural elasticity, as I understand it. The staples are not curly there. So it needs that construction as well.
Yeah, it's actually, all the fibers in this yarn, the cotton's beautiful, the yak is beautiful, but what makes this work as a yarn that holds its construction in a garment and allows you to wash and wear it is the construction of the yarn. It's that bit that actually makes this yarn work for me.
So I did one episode a while back about chainette construction yarns, kind of really diving in, and they're not all the same at all.
No, absolutely not.
But soft yak DK has a very smooth construction. It's not a highly textured yarn, so it's got great stitch definition as well. Yeah,
it's great for cabling. I can vouch for that. It just takes that texture really well, and because of the construction and there's a little bit of movement in it. It's one of those things. When you knit and you go through it, after it's gone through your needles, your stitch relaxes back in, so you get a beautiful knitted fiber. So as long as you're knitting to a fairly good tension, you get quite a nice solid knitted fiber. So it's really good.
You kind of need a bit of a larger needle on it too, don't you?
Yeah,
because
it's one of those
relaxing.
ones. Yeah, I think it's one of those ones that is really worth doing a tension square on, because I think how you particularly knit, whether you're a loose knitter or a tight knitter, you're going to need to test how this yarn behaves for you. So it's all, I mean, we always recommend you do a tension square anyway. But this one, I think there's a real benefit to do that, just to see how your knitted fiber is going to look.
Right. And for our audience, a tension square is what we call a gauge swatch.
Oh, yeah, gauge.
Yeah, a gauge swatch isn't really, or a tension square isn't really just to see, how big or small your stitches are, but really a chance to kind of relax into that fiber, to get a feel for it on your needles and, all of that. So yeah, absolutely. I think it's all, I'm just going to make my plug for always doing the swatch. The more swatching, the better.
Good. Yeah.
So if a knitter is looking to do something with soft yak, what would you recommend? What would be an ideal foray into soft yak?
Oh, it has to be a sweater. I just think something that you're going to wear as that top layer for you. Because if you look at the color range we've got some of the lighter colors. You can see there's some darker and lighter flecks in it, and that's the yak in there. So you can get a nice marl on it too. But I do think it's worth knitting a garment in. I think if you do that, you'll just love the yarn. But it doesn't have to be overly complicated. I think it's just beautiful in stocking stitch or, garter stitch. It's as I say, it's my favorite yarn. So I get a bit gushy about it, which is a bit sad. I realize that, but I just think it's really nice to.
No, I get it. I'm a soft yak fangirl too. The other thing, I'm just going to say this too, is that when you because it so beautifully displays the cables, the stitch definition is so good. I think a lot of times a heavily cabled garment can feel very heavy, but this modern construction is very light. So you have a greater yardage per gram weight of the skein. So a heavily cabled garment in soft yak DK isn't going to feel as heavy to wear.
No, absolutely not. It's very light yarn. And it's also, some people have trouble knitting cottons because they're quite unforgiving, shall we say. You can actually see the stitch, but the soft yak doesn't do that because it has that brushed. And there's this light movement. It's a bit more forgiving than a straight cotton yarn as well.
Absolutely.
But it's beautifully light to wear.
I think it's also
a really good alternative if you're allergic to wool.
Is yak hypoallergenic?
Yes, it is. We have a lady in the team who has been with Rowan longer than I have. I think nearly 15, 16 years, and she can't wear wool, which is strange working for her. But soft yak, she has absolutely no problems with and knits a lot of it. So.
Yeah, I think it's also nice for a beginner because it does have that elasticity. So I guess we should move on from, as hard as it is to tear ourselves away from soft yak. Let's talk about a yarn that's at the other end of the spectrum, and that is cotton glacé.
I have a ball of that too. So cotton glacé, it's been in the range a long time.
Yes. How long? How did that come about?
I think it's 19, 20 years now.
Oh,
cotton glacé comes about because I think it was Kaif actually that wanted it. It's because he wanted a true cotton that actually takes color well, because he's a colorist and it saturates up, and that's what cotton glacé does. And it has a big palette because it does take that saturated color really well, and it does hold the color really well. It's a mercerized cotton. So it does have a completely different feel and look to some of our other cottons, hand knit cotton, and some are like 4-ply or all softer cottons, but this is kind of a bit not harsher, but just kind of it's slicker, if you like. It's smoothed. Yeah.
Are hand knit cotton and summer light not mercerized, or are there levels of mercerization?
Yeah, there's levels, and then there's levels of leaving it brushed and unbrushed too, and that's kind of because we have quite a few cottons, and that's kind of each one we have, it does something slightly different as well. So there's different levels as to what they do. A bit mercerized usually means that it's quite a smooth cotton, and they've taken out the rough edges of the end of the fibers, so it's smooth. Usually that's what it means.
It's not a yarn from a yarn store perspective. It's not a yarn that jumps off the shelf and, you know, people pick it up and say, oh, I want to knit something with this, the way Summerlight does. But it's one of those yarns that if you knit something with it, it wears like iron. You're going to have that for decades.
It's going to last a long, long time. It's really popular with crocheters.
Oh,
well.
So Jenna has made a comment about Homespun. That must be a pattern. We'll have to look that up. That looks beautiful.
Yeah, I will. Like I said, I don't remember all the names, but
so it's one of those yarns that has a lot of structure, right?
Yeah.
Is that the twist, or is that the mercerization,
it's
or
both? It's a normal cotton twist, or what I would call a normal cotton twist. It's just spun around on itself, and you can actually untwist it. If you twist it back, you can see the fibers in it. But it's a structured yarn, but that again, it's the mercerization and the twist on this particular quality.
So it and also mercerization makes the yarn, like say, take the dyes so beautifully. There's a huge range.
Yeah, exactly. It's quite a big palette for us, and it's one of those ones that it's almost protected cotton glacé because it's just a really good core yuck cotton for the range and a good quality color, and we know it behaves well. People like it. As you say, if you knit in it, it's going to last you a long time, and it's going to wash and wear really well as well.
We had the Dijon tank.
Yeah, Dijon. Yeah, I know that one.
Are the dogs in?
No. There was noise, but I don't think they've not come in the room, so that's fine.
You might hear my dog bark. So what is cotton glacé's highest calling? If somebody sees it and, you know, what would you say, all right, you want to make a this, or you want to work with cotton glacé, what kind of garment would you recommend? I know you're going to say a sweater, of course. I'm with you. But what in particular do you think really showcases the best that cotton glacé has to offer?
Well, it's a garment that's going to show the little bit of shine that it has on it as well. So it's one that probably has some sort of stitch difference going on, so you can see the different context. One of my favorites, and I can't remember its name of the design, but it was a deep ribbed cardigan, and I knitted that for my niece, and she wore that until she's actually outgrown it now. But it was one of those things that, you know, knitting for a youngster, and she loved it and wore it to school, and just kind of, and there wasn't a lot of detail on it, but just moving from rib to normal stitch, it's just a good classic shape, and it was a really nice deep cardigan. So maybe it's something with a deeper rib on it, because I think it's important to do tight ribs on cotton knits, because then that's what gives you the shape and make sure that you it's going to maintain that shape as you wear it and it ages. And
also seams.
Well, seams are important in every garment. This is one of my little things as well. You know, it's like my mum knits a lot, doesn't like finishing. That's just not her thing. It doesn't the process. So I get a lot of envelopes arrive in the post. Sometimes I know they're coming, and sometimes they're a big surprise. And it's for me to do the finishing, because she doesn't like it, and I'm better at it than she is, which I would never say that to her, but it's true.
She knows already.
And yeah, it's my favorite bit is just taking the time to do those seams properly, ease things sleeve head in, make the effort, because I think once you've spent all that time knitting, it can really make a garment. You know, just taking the time to finish properly. And it's our best, most attended workshop across our retailers across the globe is finishing techniques and doing it properly. I mean, I know that's close to your heart, Helen.
Excuse me?
So I know that's close to your heart, Ellen, you know, finishing and taking the time to do it properly. So
absolutely. Lots of stuff. For my membership site, I sent out a survey, and I asked, you know, what your biggest issue is with sweater knitting. Number one was, I'm afraid it won't fit. And number two is, I won't know how to finish it. So those are knitters' two big concerns. So that's what I try to address all the time is, you know, you can make it fit. and I'll show you how to finish it, because it's just a skill that you can learn. It's not a,
Yeah,
it's not a secret gift.
And the thing is, once you've learned that skill, and once you've done one sweater, apologies, let me switch that off. Once you've learned that, and once you've done one sweater nicely, it's like, it's like a click. That's it. It just works. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, so I want to make a sweater in cotton glacé, just something that I want to wear forever, just something small. And so maybe a little tank or something.
Yeah, a tank or a little cardigan. It's a good shoulder cover, and throw on, not think about it too much. It'll stand up to everyday wear. It doesn't have to be kept for special. It can be, just everyday wear, totally. So
machine wash, tumble dry, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It can be. It's pretty durable, which is good.
That's wonderful. So let's talk a little bit about Rowan Denim Revive. Tell me all about this, because this is sort of the opposite end of the spectrum from cotton glacé or from soft yak, or, very different fiber.
Very different fiber. Again, something that's very close to my heart, which I spend a lot of time looking at for Rowan, is the sustainability, recycling, ticking the boxes for us. So Denim Revive is actually a fully recycled yarn. It comes from they have a full recycling process in Pisa in Italy, where they take disregarded denim and so forth, and the guys filter it, but they just do it by hand. They can pick it up and go, oh, that's that pile, and that's that pile, and it's so much cotton in that, and it's amazing. Just history of that technique and knowledge by those people, and then they strip everything out and pull it, or you card it back down to the fiber again, and then spin it back into Denim Revive for us. So at the moment, it's our only recycled product, which is amazing. And it does feel like a true cotton, like it's like a softer, it's not like when you say that cotton glacé is quite structured, this is like you say, this is the other side of that. It's kind of looser and a lot softer to the touch. It has slight napes in it as well, because it's natural recycled product. Interesting fact for you, it actually in Denim Revive we say, I think it's 5% other fiber, and legally as a recycled product, that's the only time you're allowed to say that, because there is, when you take old jeans and something, there are sometimes other bits of stitching and so forth that is so minuscule in the recycle process that you cannot quantify what they are. And actually so legally a recycled product is the only time you can say that, but it can only be 5% or less. You're not allowed to do it if it's more than that.
Of other.
Other, exactly. But
so
it's a real.
Go ahead.
It's just a real big thing. We've got. We did a big story when we launched it about the whole process and how it works, and and it's also why we've got quite a tight color palette on this yarn, because obviously your color options are limited, because when you dye, it has to be sanitized and cleaned before it dyes again. And actually, and we don't want to bleach out too much, so it just warrants taking care of it on the other side, and it means that we have this tighter palette.
So just when I went in on, I guess yesterday, Friday, Mary, who's a team member at the shop, had knitted this beautiful shawl in the lipstick color of the Denim Revive. And it has, I'm just going to see if I can't hold this up to the camera. But
that's amazing.
Isn't that lovely?
Wow, that's worked really nice.
It's so beautiful. I just can't tell you how lovely and soft it is. And the color is just very, very kind of muted. I guess that's one of the things about
it's kind of like a knockback color. I mean, it's also what happens with Denim Revive. It's one of those fibers that as you wear that, it will become softer and malleable. And, it's just one of those, it's like denim, it's like jeans, or denim jacket or something that you've worn for a year is much softer as a fabric than something brand new. And it behaves exactly the same way.
But I'm assuming that it's not like a lot of the denim yarn. It's not going to be it's not going to shrink.
Oh, no, it's
already
pre-shrunk. Yeah, exactly. Because was previously fibers, it's gone through another cleaning process. There is no shrinkage in this at all. It's all the shrink is gone, let's say.
So would you say that this is a more of a fragile fiber? Like, I always talk about the tensile strength before you go to seam something with yarn, giving it a tug. Like cotton glacé can be very, very strong yarn.
Exactly.
This, felted tweed is more delicate, being spun. Where does Denim Revive fall in terms of the?
I think pretty near the top. It's quite a strong fiber, because it's taken from old fiber. So when you're recycling it, your fibers that you put back together will have a long length on it, because that's better and easier to spin. And actually, if you pull the yarn, it does take, it stands quite a bit. It's quite strong. It's quite tough. And it is, it's original denim before it's recycled. So it will be quite a strong fiber too.
Good. Question on the weight.
It's 22 stitches, 29 rows. So it's kind of not quite a DK.
I call that a DK.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I think you could knit it to an exact DK, to be honest. But that's quite often what we have for Rowan, is when we don't tend to sit exactly on the true stuff. So,
well, there's a lot of flexibility. Again, we go back to the Soft Yak DK. You can definitely, what I call, push the gauge, knit that on a larger needle, because it is so resilient and elastic, and it's not going to sag. No. But you could probably knit this. I'm pretty sure that this particular shawl is knitted at something closer to 5.
Yeah, I'm sure you can. The thing is, because of the way it will stand a bit of air in your stitch as well. There's not a lot of elasticity in the yarn. It's a true cotton. It's pretty stable like that. So you would have to be sure that it's not going to sag as you wear. But actually, as long as you stick to that tension approximately, I think you should be fine. And like I say, change a needle, I think you might actually hit a DK pretty bang on there. So
for garments, is it wash and wear, machine wash, tumble dry, or
it's hand washed.
Okay.
It's a hand wash, no tumble dry, but that is simply because it's a denim, so it does need you to kind of wash it and then reshape it, so you lay it flat to dry it.
So this yarn figures fairly prominently in Lisa Richardson's collection Ease.
Yes, it does. It actually jumps about a bit in support. Like, it was in Union, which was the menswear collection we did recently as well. But Lisa really likes it because and has used it in Ease because she likes the drape. She likes that Ease was all about the drape of the garment and interesting constructions. And actually, you get quite a nice drape on this knitted fabric as well.
This is lovely drapey, drapey fabric. I think this would also lend itself to homewares, like we were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I think Martin has played a bit with homeware. Yeah, blankets, and kind of it's going to take the homeware everyday use as well.
Yeah, very, very nice. I love it. It's kind of a little bit earthy. I think of it as a summery tweed kind of thing.
Yeah, it does feel. People may remember we had a summer tweed. It does feel reminiscent of Rowan summer tweed.
It's less textured. I think the Rowan summer tweed had a great deal of texture, and I almost think this has more elasticity to it than the summer tweed.
Yeah,
easier to knit for me.
Yeah, exactly. Summer tweed was a bit unforgiving and a bit flat for me.
Yes,
it was never one of my favorites. Summer tweed, can you tell?
I wanted to love it. I really did. I pulled it. I wanted to love it. Kim Hargreaves had a gorgeous garment in it that I was going to do, but when I did my swatch, I just didn't love it.
Yeah, I think for me, it was nice on the ball, and it was like a summer tweed, and that is, right in Rowan's wheelhouse. But then, I'm getting a visitor. The dog's just come in. I do apologize. And then when I knitted it in a fabric, I never liked it in a knitted fabric. So that was the difference for me.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would definitely, I have knit with this. I did a little gauge swatch and I like it very much. And I love the palette. And I think it's a very wearable palette,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Some of those colors that are super bright and super fun are great, but maybe not for for everybody to wear every day.
Yeah, exactly.
So what else did I want to talk to you about? So if you had to pick, I already know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask you anyway. If you had to pick one of the yarns from the spring summer collection to knit with just for the rest of your life, keeping yourself only unto it, as long as you both shall live, what would it be?
Well, as you say, you know the answer. It's
Yeah.
Soft Yak. Absolutely. But it's not even just my favorite. Summer yarn is my favorite yarn, full stop.
Is it?
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Just love that it's really nice to wear. Just really, it's nice against the skin. It, as I say, it washes and wears really well. It ticks all the boxes for me. And also, you know, in a personal note, I was part of the development to make the yarn. So it's kind of like, you know, oh, I quite like that, and I did it, sort of thing. So yeah, it's Soft Yak all day.
When was the first time you saw the modern construction, as you call it, the chainette?
Ooh,
And what did you think? Did you just like, oh, that will never fly, or wow, that's the coolest thing?
Yeah, I think maybe was it the first time it started to appear for us was maybe 4 or 5 years ago. This chainette coming through in the yarn development from the spinners.
You had Lima.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That was the first one. And then I don't think it was right then. I don't think that was the first time it was out, and I still don't think it was right. Camello, yes, somebody's just said that. Yep, we had Camello too. And again, I don't think it's that was right either. It's just they were learning about the technique. We were learning about the right fibers within it. But the best thing about it for me, and this is something that I had to learn, is actually the precious natural fibers that we do, because they are all precious, because that's the way you should treat natural fiber. It's a resource, not something to be used and abused. It's using those techniques allows us to get the best use of those natural fibers. So when you're, like you said it earlier on, Ellen, about you get a good meterage when you use that chainette. Well, you get a good meterage using natural fibers. That's a winner for me, and it's, you know, a winner for knitters. Also, it's just a good construction for a yarn. So knit and the way it behaves, the way it's going to behave in the future. You know, people put a lot of time and money into garments they knit and garments they make. They want something that they can rest assured is going to last. And modern spin techniques allow us to do that now. And I'm a big champion of them. But I'm still, you know, very conscious of our traditions and the traditional wools. And, you know, a really good plain spun wool is going to last forever anyway. That's why it's been around forever, because that's the way it works.
It's really hard to beat wool.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Generally.
It's pretty stretchy.
Yeah, it's all good. So I just have to put a plug in for one of my favorites. I do love Soft Yak DK, but for summer, I love creative linen.
Yeah. That's getting more and more popularity. And again, I think it's one of those ones that once people have knitted with, they learn to love it and will return back to it. But that's, again, it's a bit like Denim Revive in that way. It's once you've worn that as well, and you wear it a few times, that garment relaxes into you, and it, you know, it's just linen, behaves beautifully in a knitted fabric.
This garment that I'm wearing is creative linen that I bought when it was in the Nashua line, actually, which is I can't even think how many years ago, like 2005, maybe 2006.
It's one that because we were all owned by the same company, so it was one that we brought from them, you know, into our range, because it was.
But my point is that I knit this more than a decade ago. I wear it all the time, and it is. I mean, I think that the creative linen is another one of those, like cotton glacé, that is maybe more challenging to knit, but if you put the time into it, you will have it forever and ever.
Yeah, I think it's more challenging on the shelf as well. People come into a store and look at it and think, oh, that's not for me. But actually, once you've knitted with it on the needles, I think it changes your mind, if you know.
Yes.
You know,
100%. And having a swatch that's been washed and dried and whatnot. So from the viewers, do you have any questions for David that you would, or, comments that you would like to share? I didn't really have a chance to welcome everybody, but we have a lot of wonderful, wonderful people watching. Amelia and Gwen and Jal and Mary and Ellen and Susan and Jana and Ellen and I don't know Diane, but hi, Diane. I'm glad you're here. And Meredith. Diane looks like a super Rowan fan. So
she's naming some yarns that were pressed.
So very cool. But I would love to see, and there's always a little bit of a delay. So I'll give it a second if you had a comment that you wanted. But so what's on your agenda for today? Oh, here we go. So what is your favorite soft yak sweater?
Oh, it's what I'm wearing.
And tell us the name of that again.
It's Lee from Cape Bay, which was 2 spring summers ago.
Is that Leigh?
No, Lee.
Oh, Lee. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's actually. I think Martin. The whole collection is named after people. So.
Oh, okay.
I don't actually know who Lee is specifically, but there's. They were named after people, and actually, I was on the photo shoot as well for that one. So. It's quite close to my heart.
Ellen asks, what patterns can be made with Denim Revive?
Well, Denim Revive is in Lisa's Ease brochure this spring summer, which is just beautiful. There's quite a range in there. There's some drape. There's some different shapes going on. There is some menswear in the Union brochure as well. And it does appear like in the main magazine as like one-off designs and so forth.
There's also a Nautical Collection, Ellen, that I will show you. I will send you a link. In fact, I will link in the
was it called Ocean Blue or something? Or
yes, it's all
story.
The blue colors, very pretty.
Yeah, exactly.
Where is Yak found? What country?
Well, it's predominantly found. They're on the mountains in Mongolia. But what we do with our sourcing is we have a closed sourcing loop. So quite a lot of fibers come into a big pile and then it's shipped out. We try to make sure that we know where our sourcing is and it's followed through, and that the people doing the farming and and animals are treated correctly, and that farmers get a fair price for their product. So it's being a farmer's son, again, that's something that I'm very close to my heart with, and I ask those difficult questions and make sure that we have those close. But yes, it's predominantly Mongolia.
So right up there in the cold elevations with cashmere.
Exactly. Well, they think it's you would think it's cold, but actually in those summer mountain seasons, the summers can be really quite warm, and they have beautiful grass plains. And actually, any of those like sheep, yak, goat, whatever, if they're eating good lush grass, it makes nice fiber so it follows through that they have to be treated well. And that's kind of what happens in the yaks. They have the big grass plains to feed on. So
is the yak harvested the way Kiviat would be harvested, that you comb it off, or is it sheared?
It's a bit of both, in that it does fall off naturally, so it can be combed off, but they will shear, but they don't shear the whole of the yak, because obviously some of it is like the back of the yak is a bit coarser, but they take the bottom and the belly and down from the neck out. But it does actually fall off anyway, so some of it's combed off naturally as well.
It's different than Kiviat, but I mean similar in feel, right?
Yes,
very lofty and light.
Yeah, exactly. It's similar feel, but it's a different fiber. But yeah.
Okay, so
I'm in your parking lot waiting for this to end.
Okay, Kathy, who's in today? I think that might be Mary in today. She'd be happy to open the door for you and sell you some soft yak, DK, or whatever it is that you want, darling. That's hilarious. Okay, so on that note, David, it was absolutely fabulous to have you today. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. You're so charming, so knowledgeable.
Yeah. Well, I do my best. I try to answer. Thank you, everybody that's coming. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the nice comments that you say about Rowan and our colors.
So we do have one quick question, quick last question. Rita, How do you decide on colors? She's always looking for purples. Well, there is a purple soft yak.
Yeah, there is a purplish yak. Yeah. Palettes are decided by yarn, and then we look to refresh them each time. We kind of are pretty unique in that we have our designers involved in all our color processing. So we look to make sure that we cover, a palette covers a good range of colors. Also, you know, not a good range, but what's the word? We cover enough that we've got some blues, some reds, some tonals going on, some neutrals, and then we go down into grey. There usually is a rule that you always have to have a white and a black because they're quite often the best sellers for some reason. Obviously, when we work in natural fibers, sometimes we can't get a pure white because we don't want to bleach it out totally, because then that's why I use a natural fiber and then bleach it out like that. Yeah, but we just decide on the colors by palette, and then we work on it with the designers.
I think Rowan does a beautiful job with that, and I think part of it is that there's a cohesiveness to the palette. It makes sense.
Yeah. We try to make sure that we're covering it, and that, you know, because obviously how people wear and what colors they wear and what people's favorite colors are, we have to make sure. There are certain colors that don't sell well. Orange, it just never has. Yellows, too bright yellows, just doesn't really sell very well. But equally, sometimes you have to have those in a palette to make the rest of the colors work, which is really interesting.
Absolutely. And even on the shelf, you know, there's colors that I bring in the shop that I don't love, but you need the cohesive. So
our colors in the UK different than the US. No, our palettes are global. We do not do specialized colors anywhere in the world.
Please make white and creams less yellow.
So, Diane, do you mean across the board, or do you mean in soft yak? There you are. Specific question back for the feedback.
So Terry Wood, and are colors in the UK different than in the US?
No, I answered that one. It's all the same across the globe. It's the same color. Yeah.
I do think preferences are different.
Yeah, our feedback is that actually the reds are quite strong in the UK, but then we tend to go into more blue-green being stronger in the US.
Yeah.
Just very strange.
I think some of this, you know, I know from the woman that does the hand dyeing for our, you know, line of hand dyes, the base fiber kind of governs how yellow or gray or whatever.
There is certain fibers, and especially when you're using a natural fiber, you don't want to bleach it all out. You'll add it again. But there's certain yarns within our range that we cannot get the color that we want, and we have to abandon that idea because it's just never going to take that color properly. So sometimes we just can't get it, and we have to go with the best that we can. Yeah.
So I think that, like I said, I think the palettes are beautiful and cohesive, and I love putting them on the shelf, and I love the little sort of subsections, like, you know, you've got the fine lace in the very elegant, sophisticated sort of muted shades, and then you have, you know, this separate palette that's very bright and happy and wonderful, and goes with the kid silk haze and the cotton glacé, and that's just really obviously well thought out. And I love that as a retailer.
Good. We did quite a bit of development in that, and more and more designers are using yarn plied up to give a different effect. So that was the idea there for the finer gauges.
All right. It's wonderful. Yes, we love Rowan. So again, thank you so much for joining us. I know you have things to do, probably tea time. So it's a pleasure.
Got tea to finish, high tea to have.
Yes, indeed. Okay. And thank you guys for joining me today. It really was wonderful to have you. And this will be available on YouTube and on Facebook going forward. So until next time, happy knitting.
Thank you, everybody.